The flashbulbs at the Metropolitan Museum of Art don't just capture fashion, they illuminate secrets. For over a decade, the stairs of the Met Gala have been missing a certain foundational pillar, an archetype of modern pop royalty who hadn't graced the steps since 2016. But when the invitation list for the prestigious event was finalized, the global entertainment apparatus felt a massive shift. She wasn't just returning as an attendee, she was stepping into the apex position of co-chair. Yet, as the velvet ropes parted and the heavily guarded motorcade arrived, the collective breath of the gathered press corps caught in their throats. The story tracking across the monitors wasn't about the returning queen, it was about the child standing directly beside her. The Met Gala operates under an unyielding, iron-clad mandate established deep within the upper echelons of high fashion management, a strict, non-negotiable 18 and up age restriction. It is an environment explicitly designed for adult themes, avant-garde subversion, and intense corporate networking. Yet, bypassing every security protocol and institutional boundary, 12-year-old Blue Ivy stepped onto the carpet. The optics were immediate, heavy, and deeply unsettling to the millions watching the live feeds unfold in real time. This wasn't a standard family outing or a casual bring-your-daughter-to-work day. The staging was immaculate, rigid, and carried the unmistakable weight of a formal introduction to a society that operates entirely behind closed doors. As the cameras whirred, onlookers immediately zeroed in on the physical choreography of the family unit. The imagery was stark. There was a deliberate, almost militaristic precision to the way the young girl was guided through the gauntlet of flashing lights. Mainstream commentary platforms quickly erupted into a frenzy of speculation, with viewers dissecting every micro-movement. To the untrained eye, it was a glamorous family debut, but to those who have watched the inner workings of the music industry for decades, the scene felt altogether different. It resembled an official presentation, a public handoff where the normal boundaries of childhood are completely erased to make room for a grander, far more mysterious objective. The question immediately began circulating through every corner of the digital underground. Why was a preteen granted total immunity from the industry's strictest age codes, and what exactly was the public being asked to witness? To understand the sheer scale of the panic brewing online, one must look past the superficial glamour and decode the highly specific visual language deployed on that red carpet. High society events rarely feature accidental aesthetics. Every thread, every accessory, and every silhouette is chosen to communicate a message. The internet completely fractured when analysts began cross-referencing the wardrobe choices of the night. The young prodigy stepped out in a pristine, white, structured gown that bore an uncanny, undeniable resemblance to a traditional bridal silhouette. Standing beside her was her father, whose sharp, tailored tuxedo and rigid, protective posture perfectly mirrored the archetype of a groom escorting a bride down an aisle. The visual staging instantly triggered a wave of intense cultural discomfort. Social media sleuths began screaming that this was a symbolic representation of a marriage to the industry, a ritualistic passing of the torch where a child is formally wedded to the machinery of global entertainment. This theory gained massive traction when viewers noticed a hidden, precise detail linking the family's attire. The young girl's footwear did not match or complement her own white gown. Instead, the shoes were a perfect, identical material match to her mother's dress. The symbolism was blindingly obvious to the public. She was quite literally being forced to step into her mother's shoes, inheriting a path that had already been carved out for her through decades of industry dominance. But the real darkness began to manifest when the crowd looked directly at the matriarch's attire. The garment was not merely an exercise in high fashion, it was a physical manifestation of the macabre. The fabric featured an intricate, hyper-detailed print replicating a famous 1944 lithograph titled The Visitor, created by the surrealist artist Caroline D. Rose. The historical artwork depicts a stark skeleton draped in an elegant, sweeping gown, standing before a closed door and ringing a bell. It is the literal, undeniable personification of death operating under a feminine, elegant disguise.
Why would the most powerful woman in music choose to wrap herself in the literal imagery of the Grim Reaper on the exact night she introduces her eldest child to the ultimate gatekeepers of high society? The public consensus formed almost instantly. One era was being laid to rest so that a new vessel could be activated. The darkness deepened as the party moved inside the walls of the museum, away from the prying eyes of the casual public. The secondary wardrobe change featured a custom design by Robert One, an artist known for his haunting, hyper-futuristic concepts. The garment was flanked by hyper-extended, razor-sharp metallic fingernails that extended from her hands like predatory claws. Online spaces immediately exploded in terror, with commentators pointing out that the crystal patterns etched across the fabric formed geometric configurations historically associated with ancient esoteric symbolism. It was an aesthetic that didn't just hint at the occult, it shouted it directly into the lenses of the media. The public was no longer just watching a pop star, they were watching an ancient narrative play out in real time, hidden in plain sight beneath the banner of modern art. The visual presentation was deeply disturbing on its own, but it was the raw, unedited audio from the red carpet interviews that turned public suspicion into absolute certainty. When the reporters approached the co-chair, eager to capture her first public statements at the event in a decade, the dialogue took a sharp, surreal turn away from standard celebrity platitudes. When asked how it felt to finally return to the grand stage after 10 long years, she didn't speak on her own legacy, her upcoming projects, or her personal achievements. Instead, her focus remained entirely fixed on her daughter. The words she spoke into the microphones were delivered with a cold, rhythmic precision that sent chills down the spines of listeners. "It feels surreal because my daughter is here. I think she looks so incredible. We could learn some red carpet tips from her. Absolutely. She was ready. She was ready. She is ready." The repetition is what triggered the algorithmic alarms across the internet. The phrase wasn't dropped casually. It was emphasized, repeated 3 distinct times like a mantra or an official declaration. She is ready. Ready for what exactly? A 12-year-old child is traditionally deemed ready for middle school milestones, for academic achievements, or for peer group socialization. She is not typically deemed ready for the hypersexualized, predatory, high-stakes psychological warfare of the entertainment elite. The underlying tone of the delivery suggested a completion of a process, a signal to the onlookers that a long, arduous period of preparation had finally concluded. The internet's collective memory instantly connected this chilling declaration to one of the most famous pieces of lore in modern music history, the creation and alleged possession of the alter ego known as Sasha Fierce. For years, the public has analyzed past interviews where the pop icon admitted that she required a secondary, fierce, and entirely separate spiritual entity to take control of her body to perform on stage, an entity she claimed would manifest with a distinct energy, making her do things she would never normally consider. Esoteric researchers online began theorizing that the public was witnessing a literal transference of this entity. The mother appeared uncharacteristically reserved, almost drained of her typical vibrant authority, while the daughter exuded an eerily hyper-calm confidence that seemed entirely unnatural for her age. The narrative circulating through the comment section was unanimous. The old host was stepping back, and the entity had found its brand new, youthful vessel. This disturbing presentation at the museum did not happen in a vacuum. It was merely the climax of a meticulously planned public conditioning campaign that had been operating in the light of day for over a year. To truly understand how the public arrived at this state of alarm, we must re-examine the structural anomalies of the 2023 Renaissance World Tour. When the stadium lights dimmed across global arenas, audiences were shocked to see a pre-teen child brought out to perform complex, highly synchronized choreography alongside adult backup dancers. The immediate mainstream reaction was a wave of manufactured praise, celebrating the moment as a wholesome display of generational talent. But beneath the corporate media narrative, a massive undercurrent of public fury was boiling. Cultural critics and protective parents looked at the stage with deep concern. The child was being positioned in front of tens of thousands of screaming fans, performing movements that carried an undeniably mature connotation, all while millions of high-definition cameras recorded her every angle to be archived indefinitely on the internet. Critics pointed out that from a purely technical standpoint, the child was clearly not stage-ready. Her movements were rigid, her expressions strained, and her presence forced. The conclusion was obvious to those looking objectively. She wasn't on that stage because she was a seasoned performer demanding the spotlight. She was on that stage because she was being systematically desensitized to the overwhelming, blinding pressure of public scrutiny. She was being broken in before the eyes of the world. While mainstream commentators whispered their concerns in hushed tones for fear of blacklisting, one notorious internet figure decided to completely smash the wall of silence. Tokyo Toni, the unfiltered and highly volatile mother of Black China, took to her streaming platforms to deliver a blistering, apocalyptic takedown of the family's parenting choices. Toni did not hold back, bypassing all celebrity etiquette to address the situation with terrifying bluntness. Why are you grooming our children through your daughter? Go to the moon, build your house there with your husband and your kids, and stay there. You are like an artificial plant, literally and figuratively. You are using that child as a prop to make yourself money and destroy